Yes, I am J.P. Singhal, former Vice Chancellor, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. Recently, National President Akhil Bharatiya Rashtriya Shikshak Mahasangh. Basically here to just share my experiences on a very important topic, enabling learning environment and learner support. As we are all aware of the fact that when we talk about the learning environment, we talk about the whole range of components and activities within which learning happens. It may include learning resources, technology, pedagogy, means of teaching, modes of learning, and also the societal and global context is also included when we talk about this environment. This environment, to make this environment enable, conducive, and effective, we have to make this environment very much enjoyable, very much engaging, and very much trustworthy. Then and then this environment becomes enable. But recently, what we have seen that there has been a paradigm shift, especially after the adoption of National Education Policy 2020 by the Government of India in the approaches towards the learning environment. If we just go through the shift, what I could see through National Education Policy 2020, we will be able to understand this environment much more genuinely. The shift is from contents specific to the learners centric. So far, we have been very much content specific. The focus was on the contents. Now the focus is shifted from contents to learners. We have to look for learners, learners' needs, learners' diversity, learners' requirement, learners' behavior, and all that. That is a shift and more towards creation of new learning solutions. We have to go beyond the traditional learning solutions for this particular purpose. There is a shift for the holistic development. We want the holistic development, not only we don't want to make our student experts in this subject merely, but we want his or her holistic development. And that is why there is a focus on integrated learning, or you can say the collaborative learning. So far, we have not been focusing on these issues. But with this National Education Policy 2020, now the collaborative learning and integrative learning is becoming much more important, much more popular. And very important thing which is a shift which we see, that there is a respect for diversity. So far, we were not very much thinking about, there was a particular kind of the system, only within this system we were working. But now we see a kind of the divergent views and diversity of the students and differences in the various kind of the behavior of the students. And that is why we have to, there is a shift for understanding and recognizing diversity of the students, and also recognizing the local context, local needs. As our Honorable Prime Minister has said, we have to be very vocal for local. And this is then there is an extensive use of technology. National Education Policy has very basically focusing on this issue, that the technology, most modern technology, talking about the artificial intelligence, talking about design thinking, talking about all these creativity and innovations and inventions, all these things has to be taken into consideration for the purpose of just thinking about how we can make the best use of the new technology for the purpose of providing the enabling and conducive and effective learning environment to the students. And that important is the continuous review and feedback. Generally, we were not very much trying to know something for the kind of the impact which we see amongst the students, and that is the reason we find that this is a focus. More and more focus is on continuous feedback. Continuous feedback has to be received from the students, and that is the creativity and innovation. These are all, I have just shortlisted few issues which I believe that with this National Education Policy 2020, the focus has shifted, and this paradigm shift has made the things much more important for us, that we have to be very vigilant, we have to be very much concerned that how we can strengthen our learners support system, how we can strengthen our learning environment with which we will be making the things happen in the way we want. We want that overall development of the student is there. That is not simply the, it's not possible merely from the physical environment. We have to look for physical, psychological, social, emotional, cultural environment. We have to improve upon all these kind of the components of the environment. So far, we have been very much concerned about the physical environment, but we have to look for that not only the physical, but social, cultural, psychological, emotional environment has to be strengthened, so to facilitate the students so that they can work very effectively, they can work very efficiently, and their learning is facilitated, their learning is becoming much more important to them. And that it's a very important. If your environment is a conducive one, it is certainly going to support the learners' learning and also support the learners' development. Whatever the kind of the opinion we have, that how we will be talking in that sense, that the learner will be in a position to think in this direction, that the kind of the work will be much more important to them. And this is the way the learners' learning environment has to be made conducive, has to be made very effective. Then and then we will be saying that the students are totally satisfied, students are totally very much engaging, they are very much enjoying the kind of study which we are providing to them, and this is very much important for them. And for that, learner support is also very important. We have to strengthen the environment, we have to make our environment conducive, effect we wanted to make. So the students are working very efficient. They are working very much proactively. They are not simply the listener, they are not simply the persons who are at the receiving end, but they are very basically working, collaborating with the various persons, collaborating with the various students, and with this they are making their understanding, their learning much more useful and purposeful. And for that, learner support is very much required. Learner support is a very essential element of an effective and conducive learning environment. There are several components, but the learner support component is one very important component. We have to improve upon this learner support component because it is very important, already very important element for the purpose of making our environment a very much a brilliant environment, a very conducive environment. And for that, we have to work very hard because learners are very much diverse. Their needs are diverse, their behavior is diverse, their culture is diverse. We find learners from the various areas, from various languages, from various, you can say, the kind of the thought process, the kind of the culture. And that is why this diversity, which was not recognized so far, has to be recognized essentially. And until unless we recognize this diversity, we will not be able to provide a kind of the learner support system which made them very effective. Because this is the learner support system only which makes a difference between the success and failure. If your learner support system is very much important, very much conducive, very much strong, then the learner will be very successful. And if we find the learner support system is not very nice, it is not very much, it's a very weak learner support system we have, then certainly he will be and she will be a failure one. So the difference between success and failure is very much dependent on the kind of the learner support system we have developed in our system. And this is the reason we have to think that to satisfy our learners, to facilitate our learners, to make our learners very important, we have to work very hard to do few things in this direction. Very important thing is that we have to understand the diversity of our students, diversity of our learners, what kind of diversity they have. And if we understand their needs, diverse need or different kinds of needs of our learner, then accordingly we can plan, we can try to have our system, learner support system at place. And if it is, you have a very good learner support system, but it is not in consonance with the needs and the desires of the students and the learners, then it will have no impact. Learner support system will have a positive impact only and only when it is very much in consonance with the needs of the students. And these needs are diverse. So we have to study them. We have to study them very vigorously and accordingly plan, accordingly trying to know. We have to make ourselves aware of these needs. We have to make ourselves, we have to comprehend, we have to understand these needs. Accordingly, we have to plan the kind of the tools and techniques by which the learners are supported. And then we have to master these kind of the tools and techniques. So these could be the 4 stages that we have to, first we have to aware ourselves, then we have to understand, means we have to comprehend that particular fact. Then we have to plan accordingly the tools and techniques with which the learners can be supported to fulfill their need, to satisfy their needs. And accordingly, we have to master that, because we have to become an expert in that. We have to become the master of that particular thing. Then and then this support system will give you the desirable results, will give you the kind of the result we expected from. And that is the reason we have to focus on this learner support system in a very big way. Then and then we will be in a position to think in this direction. And so this, there are, generally we are saying that these learner supports system has 2 levels. One is a kind of the level which we can talk about, that is a macro level. It means we can try to design a learner support system at the macro level, which means at the institution level. At the institution level, look for what kind of the environment we have in the institution, what are the various factors which influences the learner's environment, learning environment at the level of the institution. Maybe the kind of the administration you have, kind of the management you have, kind of the library resources, technological resources you have, kind of, you can say the service department you have. All these, or kind of the technology, say what kind of website, your web page, your all these kind of the new tools of technological tools could be of wonderful help at the institution level. We have to create an environment which is very conducive at the institutional level. That is one level. We have to work for that how the different needs of the different students could be met, whether your management is a collaborative one or is a participative one, or management is a kind of the authoritative one only. What kind of the information centers you have, what kind of the information centers you have, whether the students are very basically getting all sort of information which they wanted to have for this. This is quite important. So that is macro level. at institutional level, we can work to improve upon the learning environment by providing that kind of the learner support tools and techniques and processes and methodologies by which learners are facilitated to achieve their objectives. Learners are facilitated to do the things the way they want. That is one level, that is where we call it a macro level. Or another level for learner support to the micro level. That's very important. That very basically speaks about the set of all facilities that facilitates the students to solve their problems and solve their obstacles in learning. Students might be seeing certain hurdles, certain obstacles, certain problems while learning. Well, that is why we have to think in this direction. That for this purpose, at micro level, we have to think that prior to the class, before the class, during the class, and after the class. We have to think not merely when the class or study is going on, learners are in a learning process, but we have to think about the pre-classes also, during the classes also, and after the classes also. That micro system of learning for learner support has to be thought in these three categories. How we can facilitate the students to work very effectively and efficiently before, what steps we need to have before the classes are taken place, or during the classes taken place, or after the classes taken place. All these three phases are very important. Sometimes we are only bothering during the classes, but we need an environment, we need a conducive environment to make our students efficient, handling the problems, handling the obstacles very easily. Then we have to do that kind of the point for that. And that is the reason that is related with the every subject or a course. Every course has to be thought of in this micro system, that because it is the kind of the macro level, it's individual level, we have to look for. In these days, we are trying to have a kind of the learning system, which is a individual learning system. Every individual is learning. The learning impact on every individual is very high. Every individual is becoming so is empowered to do away all the problems and all the kind of the obstacles they are facing in learning. And this is the reason we have to work for that how we can improve upon the learning systems or individual learning system, which we can call the learner support at the back. Several kind of the, you can say the learner support could be concerned, maybe the learner's behavior, maybe the learner's confidence, maybe the learner's contents of the things, or context is very much important. Context, because now there is a big shift from content to context. In what context we are going to do the things, and that context has to be taken care of, and that has to be done for that kind of thing. And for that, what we need to have, that there could be the several supporters, learner supporters. We can develop certain learner supporters. Maybe the teachers are there, maybe the technology is there, maybe the students are there, colleagues are there. They are the learners. We have to create a network of learner supporters to improve upon the efficiency and effectiveness of the learners. Because learners learn very much from those areas, from those persons to whom they are very much associated. So maybe the colleagues, the students working with you, you can collaborate with them, you can learn from them. And that is, we are, in these days, we are talking about the experience in learning. We are talking about the collaborative learning. So all that experiencing learning comes only when you are trying to learn by experiences, by doing things. And this is the way which basically help, and that is why the learner support system will focus on the various forms of assistance, how we can assist the learner. Maybe, but what I believe that we have the forms of assistance must go beyond the delivery of contents or the skill development or the formal assessment, because now we are not talking about the formal assessment. Now we are talking about the formative regular assessment. So far we have been assisting the students in the form of skill development, or in the form of contents delivery, or in the form of pedagogy, or in the form of formal assessment. Now we have to go beyond that. So how we can try to improve upon the culture, processes, and how we can try to think in this direction, so that the learner support becomes much more. We have to go beyond that. And if we are going beyond that, then all these aspects of national education policy, which has focuses on the various kind of the changes which needs to be addressed, will certainly be taken care of. And if we are taking care of all these factors, which I have just listed out, then certainly we will be in a position to think in this direction, that with this kind of the learner support and with the kind of the strengthening of the environment, we will be in a position to provide a kind of environment which is an educated environment, which is a enjoyable environment, which is an engaging environment, which is a very much conducive environment to facilitate the learners to increase their efficiency, to increase their effectiveness, and to become very successful. With this, I thank you very much for all the organizers who have just provided me an opportunity to share some experiences on this issue. I again thank you very much for this.